John Khamzat Chimaev. Ай-яй-яй. John, как я тебя учил.
You just saw the footage. Two absolute killers, Jon Jones and Khamzat Chimaev, rolling around on the mats like brothers, laughing, wrestling, trading techniques. Most people looked at that clip and saw a friendly training session between two superstars. They saw a passing of the torch, or maybe just a cool social media moment. They are looking at the surface. If you look deeper, you aren't seeing a training session. You are seeing the precursor to the most insane, impossible, and politically charged event in the history of combat sports. Everyone is screaming about Jon Jones fighting Tom Aspinall. The internet is flooded with comments demanding Alex Pereira fight Magomed Ankalaev. The generic YouTube channels are telling you that the rankings matter, that the UFC follows a logical path, and that the interim champion must fight the undisputed champ. But let's be honest with ourselves. When has the UFC ever done what is fair when there is something massive on the table? We are living in a simulation where logic has left the building. In the clip you just watched is the seed for a reality that sounds like fiction until you realize the pieces are already in place. We are not talking about T-Mobile Arena. We aren't even talking about Madison Square Garden. We are talking about the South Lawn of the White House. You think I'm joking? You think this is clickbait? Look at the relationships. Look at who sat cage side with Dana White. Look at who Jon Jones handed his belt to, the president-elect of the United States. The paradigm has shifted. The old rules of climb the rankings and get a title shot are dead. We are entering the era of the super spectacle, and the only fight that fits the magnitude of a presidential cosign isn't Jones versus Aspinall. It's Jon Jones versus Islam Makhachev. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you will realize that this isn't just a fantasy matchup. It is the only escape route left for three different champions who are currently trapped in a corner by their own legacies. We're expecting a sports breakdown, but this is a political analysis of the UFC's future. The friendly wrestling you just saw between Jon and Khamzat wasn't just play, it was a signal. It was the formation of an alliance that isolates the rest of the roster. It was a message to the heavyweights and the middleweights that the sharks are swimming together now. And when the sharks stop eating each other, they start hunting for something bigger. That something bigger is an event that transcends sport. An event hosted by the Commander-in-Chief featuring the greatest American fighter of all time against the greatest Dagestani champion of this era. This is the script for how we get to Washington, D.C., and it starts with realizing that everyone else is playing checkers while Dana White and Donald Trump are playing 4D chess.
To understand why Islam Makhachev versus Jon Jones is the destination, we have to look at the roadblocks preventing the other fights. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Alex Pereira. Everyone loves Poatan. He saved multiple cards, he knocks people out, and he looks terrifying. But there is a ceiling to the Pereira hype train, and that ceiling is elite grappling, specifically the grappling of Khamzat Chimaev. You saw the clip at the start. Khamzat is massive. His wrestling is suffocating. He is the one variable that destroys the Alex Pereira mythology. Pereira is smart. His team is smart. They know that moving up to heavyweight is a risk, but staying at middleweight or light heavyweight with Khamzat lurking is a death sentence for his aura. Pereira does not want to fight Khamzat. He avoids the conversation. He focuses on strikers. He focuses on legacy fights that favor his kickboxing. If Pereira refuses to engage with the grapplers and specifically ducks the Khamzat matchup because of that overwhelming wrestling pressure we saw Jon Jones casually handling in the intro, then the chain of command breaks. Pereira is stagnant. He isn't moving up to fight Jon because Jon would take him down and submit him in one round, exposing the gap in MMA wrestling versus kickboxing. So Pereira is out of the equation for Jones. Now look at Jon Jones. The world is screaming for him to fight Tom Aspinall. It's the righteous fight. It's the fight for the integrity of the sport. And that is exactly why it will never happen. Jon Jones does not care about your integrity. He cares about his legacy and his bank account. Tom Aspinall is a high-risk, low-reward nightmare. He is young, he is fast, he hits like a truck, and he has zero mainstream name value compared to Jon. If Jon loses to Aspinall, he goes out on his back against a guy that casual fans barely know. Jon is ducking Aspinall. Let's call it what it is. He is openly avoiding the interim champion because he needs a narrative that is bigger than a title unification. He needs a fight that makes the fans forgive him for dodging the Brit. He needs a fight so bizarre, so historic, and so dangerous in a different way that people forget Aspinall even exists. He needs to fight a legend. He needs to fight the pound-for-pound king. This is where the deadlock happens. Pereira won't fight the wrestlers. Jones won't fight the young, hungry heavyweights. The division is frozen, and when the water freezes, you can walk across it to places you couldn't reach before. The frustration of the fans is building up. They are tired of the politics. They are tired of the "I want to fight him, but he said no" games. The UFC needs a solution that cuts the Gordian knot. They need a fight that ignores weight classes, ignores rankings, and purely focuses on who is the greatest fighter on earth. And that is where the Dagestani eagle starts to look at the American lion.
Enter Islam Makhachev. He has cleaned out the lightweight division. He beat Oliveira. He beat Volkanovski twice. He beat Poirier. He is looking at Arman Sarukian, but after that, there is nothing left. Islam has spoken openly about moving up to 170 to fight Leon or Bilal, but Bilal is his friend and training partner, so that's awkward. He talks about 185 to fight Pereira, but we already established that Pereira is likely going to maneuver away from a grappler of that caliber to protect his stock. Islam is sitting on top of the world as the pound-for-pound #1, but he is hungry for something that separates him from Khabib. He wants to do what nobody has ever done. He sees Jon Jones. He sees the GOAT. And unlike the rest of the world, Islam isn't looking at the size difference. He is looking at the challenge. Islam has the audacity to believe his technique conquers size. We saw him struggle with Volk, but we also saw him adapt. Now imagine the narrative. Islam Makhachev, the king of the modern era, agrees to fight Jon Jones, the king of the old era. Islam agrees to move up, not just to 170, not just to 185, but to a catchweight or even heavyweight limit to challenge Jones. Why would he do this? Because if he loses, he lost to a heavyweight giant. No shame. But if he wins, if he takes down Jon Jones, if he submits the unsubmittable, he becomes the undisputed god of combat sports. For Jon Jones, this is the perfect trap. He gets to avoid Aspinall, but he doesn't look like a coward because he is fighting the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world. He can say, "I'm not ducking Tom. I'm fighting the guy you all say is better than me." It's a genius PR move. Jon gets to fight a smaller man, which he loves to do, but gets credit for fighting a giant of the sport. It serves Islam's ambition, and it serves Jon's ego. And remember the intro clip? Jones and Khamzat. Khamzat is the bridge. Khamzat is the guy who tells Jon, "These Dagestani guys are different," and tells Islam, "Jon is the only test left." The friendly wrestling was the negotiation. It was the feeling out process. It was Jon realizing that the path to reclaiming the love of the masses isn't beating another heavyweight, it's accepting the challenge of the guy who holds the torch that Khabib lit. It's the ultimate David versus Goliath storyline, and it's the only fight that justifies holding up two divisions. Now, bring it all home to the White House. We know Dana White's relationship with Donald Trump. We know that Trump wanted to host fights during his first term. Now, with the political landscape shifted, the UFC has the opportunity to become the first sports organization to host a major event on federal property as a display of American strength and international competition. A fight between an American icon, Jones, and a Russian Dagestani legend, Islam, fits perfectly into the East versus West or global competition narrative that fight promoters have used since Rocky IV. But this time, it's real. Hunter Campbell and Dana White are looking for the biggest possible gate, the biggest possible pay-per-view, and the biggest possible media footprint. Nothing beats the White House. This scenario solves every problem for the UFC brass. They don't have to force Pereira into a wrestling match he hates. They don't have to strip Jon Jones and anger their biggest star. They don't have to keep Islam waiting for contenders. They package it all into one night. Jon Jones versus Islam Makhachev at the White House. The optics are blinding. Jones, looking to redeem his public image, fights in front of the president. Islam, looking to prove that technique conquers all, steps into the lion's den. Even Khamzat wins in this scenario, because with the middleweight and light heavyweight pictures clearing up as the champions are distracted, he gets a clear lane to a title without the confusing politics. It serves everyone. It serves Dana, who cements the UFC as a mainstream powerhouse. It serves Hunter, who executes the most complex contract in sports history. It serves Jon, who avoids the Aspinall threat while getting a massive payday. And it serves Islam, who gets the chance to achieve immortality. The
clip you saw at the beginning wasn't just two guys playing, it was the beginning of the end of the current era. It was the handshake before the heist. The reality where Jon Jones fights Islam Makhachev at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is more likely than you think. Because in a world where logic is dead, spectacle is king. And there is no greater spectacle than this. So when you see them announce it, don't be surprised. Just remember that you saw the signs when they were wrestling on the mats, laughing about a future that the rest of us were too blind to see. This is the only way the story ends.